Going on here, it says, but Democrats still have a long way to go. The Democratic establishment is still largely hostile to even incrementalist left-wing principles. And it must learn that the theatrical left punching will do little to improve its fate. Ultimately, embracing its left wing will yield better results for the American people than living in constant fear of association with the S word. Now, what is this here? This is getting into the principle of the Ratchet Effect, right? And the way in which our duopoly, which amounts to a single capitalist party, political infrastructure works, right? The right-wing party, quote unquote, the Republican Party, exists to turn policy perpetually to the right. Like a ratchet. The ratchet can only go right, right? They'll strip all these things. They'll cram through, deregulation, cuts to spending and stuff like that. But then the Democratic Party ostensibly gives, dissidence to this policy. They market themselves as trying to stop the Republicans from moving things more right to more privatization and things like that. But in reality, they exist to siphon political dissent from the people into the Democratic Party, to get people to vote for them, to get them into office, to add an air of legitimacy. And then what do we see happens once they're in power? Oh, we can't do this because of the parliamentarian. Oh, we can't do this because of the rule. Oh, we can't do this because of a couple Democrats, right? This is on purpose, right? This is to stop us from ever being able to undo any of the right-wing pushes, right? You can't go back left with the Democratic Party. And now I feel that this is on purpose, right? The capitalists that have bought up the government and bribed the politicians, they know that this is what they're doing, right? This adds the sort of manufacturing of consent layer of reality, right? It adds the mirage that this is actually a democracy. It's just a democracy that's maybe not working out as well as it should, right? But beyond that, there are aspects of social reproduction that are occurring that are maybe less insidious, but still incredibly pervasive, right? It's the way in which our elections work, where we have winner take all elections. Like, it doesn't matter if you only won if you won by 51%, like just that 1% compared to the other or whatever. You get that whole seat, right? There's no room for extra representation. It's either one party wins or the other, and we don't make any concessions to anywhere in the middle ground or let any other parties in, right? But because of this fact that only one party can win, both parties, especially the Democrats, though, tend to try and appeal to both sides, right? And Democrats that are trying to get in office are so afraid of being labeled socialists by the other party trying to turn their constituents against them that they'll make these condemnations and, separate themselves or do pushback against a more quote unquote left-leaning policy driven agenda, right? So then we end up in this situation where these people uphold the status quo just as much as the Republican Party does, for as much as the fanfare that we're going to get some sort of transitions or try to address the problems that we've been facing for generations now. And it's a self-reproducing system, and it keeps going this way. And there's nothing we can really do about it. We're never going to achieve it through elections because there's all of this infrastructure and red tape in place to ensure that it never shifts. It's intentional. And this comes back to a larger discussion about how flawed bourgeois democracy is, liberal democracy that we associate with freedom and elections and things like that. It shows its limitations. But it's important to consider that the system is purposefully set up this way. It's purposely set up so that there is no real democratic power for people, right? It's a mirage to make you believe that you have a say. It's to manufacture your consent so that you believe that you're living in a democracy, when in reality it's a bunch of capitalists and plutocrats and their political lackeys that make all the decisions, and every single one of those decisions is counter to your interest, right? And this is again coming to the fallacy of electoralism. I hear a lot of things about the justification now for electoralism is coming out of the fact that we've seen this failure of the progressive electoral movement. Like, oh, we didn't get what we were going to thought we were going to get from mobilizing. So their excuse now to continue to advocate for electoralism, to continue to advocate for the Democratic Party is, harm reduction. Is this idea that voting for Democrats is going to reduce harm to the most disenfranchised and marginalized amongst us. And, there is some truth to it. In the interim, in the immediate period, it's going to, bar a lot of the immediate and worst excesses. But in the long run, it's not going to do anything. It's just, staving off the day when the bill is going to have to be paid in full. Because this policy of harm reduction and voting for Democrats, all it does is kick the can down the road. But inevitably, we're going to have to face what's happening. And we've seen it gradually creeping up on us. This is why the far right is growing at such an exponential rate, right? This is why we've seen the deep polarity in politics now, is because Democrats, even the most well-meaning among them, have played this centered game, right? This centered game where when they get in power, they stop anything from actually being fucking done. Or they play stupid, or they play, oh, we can't do it, right? And so when people begin to see this time and time again, they get more and more disenfranchised with the electoral system. They see the Democratic Party lies for what they are. They see that nothing's going to change. And then they start getting slanted by right-wing pundits into reactionary beliefs and attitudes, which is incredibly fucking scary. Because the failure of liberals, the failure of liberalism is what has time and time again allowed fascism to fester and then rise and then seize power. Okay? And then all that fucking harm reduction that you were preaching about is why we got to vote for these people that aren't going to do anything for us, ends up being paid 100-fold when these people start rounding people up or lynching them in the street en masse with racist pogroms and stuff like that. So the point I'm trying to make is this harm reduction belief it's just false. It's temporary. It's like taking a couple of fucking Aleve when you have chronic migraines. This isn't going to solve the issue. It's just going to put it off for a little bit and ignore the underlying issues. And until we can accept that and bite that bitter pill to realize that an entire system of liberal democracy is what is creating these cycles and is what is allowing, the monopoly of political power by the capitalist class to continue, until we take that pill and realize that there's nothing we can do to change it. And we have to understand that we're not going to change it through the system that's made to self-replicate itself. We have to smash that system and build something new. And we can only do that, as we discussed many times on this channel, through direct action, mobilization, militant civil disobedience, in a general revolution, whatever form that may take. Now, going along with this concept that Democrats are complicit in the capitalist interests of our society, and going along with the idea of what I'm talking about, that voting Democrat, that having some sort of electoral movement really isn't going to do much to undo this system, I want to roll this clip from Ro Khanna, because a lot of the clips that I saw from the House debate on this were completely asinine, right? Like the notion or the perception of what socialism is completely infantile. It's classic Red Scare propaganda. These people are either intentionally misleading people or they're so fucking ill-educated on the history of the world. It could be either or, and it's probably a mix of both, that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But I want to play this clip from Ro Khanna because he actually seems to understand, at least nominally, what socialism is. When he talks about the means of production. Nobody here in the Democratic Party wants to seize the means of production. And I want to play that clip for you real quick, show you what I'm talking about.
That was 1 minute, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me be clear. The Democratic Party does not believe that the government should control the means of production. No Democrat believes that there should be government gas stations or government technology companies or government car companies. So what does the Democratic Party believe? We believe every person in America should have child care. And what is the Republicans? What do they say? Their answer, well, look at how many people Stalin killed. We say, let's give everyone health care. The Republicans say, well, we can't do that. Look at how many people Pol Pot killed. We say, let's make sure everyone has equal opportunity. The Republican plan, we can't do that. Look at how many people Kim Jong-un is starving. Give me a break. The American people are catching on. They know that we have lost 25% of wealth in the working class and middle class since 1980. They know that the real crime are not crimes happening abroad, but the crime of paying starvation wages for hard work. This party is actually solving the problems of the American people. That party is giving rhetoric about foreign regimes. People will see through the rhetoric and side with the Democratic Party.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman.
Okay, so there you have it. I mean, that's Ro Khanna, supposedly one of the more progressive members of Congress, saying that nobody in the Democratic Party is going to advocate for, seizing the means of production, for undoing the system of capitalism, which is the root of all of our social, economic problems, right? And I think that's just really telling, because let's say even in the best of worlds, right, if we have this great shift in the Democratic Party and they become more social democrats, at the best, we're going to get these Band-Aid reforms that, tackle maybe some of the worst excesses of capitalism, but fundamentally do not change the system and will not change the system. All of the, manufacturing, all the resource commodification, our transportation networks, even in the most progressive of progressive electoral revolutions, quote unquote, we're going to still have capitalism where private individuals own everything. And they'll just give us a few scraps to make sure that we don't revolt and try to build a new system. Right? And maybe you're saying, oh, well, that's fine by me as long as I can, get by in life. Okay, I can understand why you'd say that. But some of the issues that we're facing now are so existential that it's going to be necessary to completely dismantle existing systems in order to quite literally save the goddamn planet. Right. And a Green New Deal reform and switching to new energy is not going to be enough to stave off climate change and ecocide. It's not going to be enough. We have to completely and fundamentally shift away our systems. We have to have systems of manufacturing that are owned by the public. Right. We have to think about the ways in which we consume. It can't just be endless, mindless, capitalist consumption, capitalist hidden hand of the market ideology. This is not going to do it. Right. So I just wanted to play that Ro Khanna clip for me because it's pretty telling. Right. And as far as I know, every single quote unquote progressive Democrat anywhere in the country toes this exact line. The most radical you're going to get with them isn't even nationalization, isn't even redistribution. It's, oh, hey, we're going to make it so that Social Security is a little bit more. That's all you're going to get. And while that may be an improvement, it is not going to fundamentally solve the issues that we're facing as a society. Now in this...